Hey there, and welcome back to Don't Open That Door. I'm Justin, and I'm just on my way to the local mosque.
I'm Nico, and I've had Wishmaster by Nightwish stuck in my head literally all day in preparation for this.
I'm Dan, and I'm still trying to decide what my first wish would be.
And we are here today to discuss Wishmaster. Directed by Robert Kurtzman, this stars Andrew Divoff as the Jinn, Tammy Lauren as Alex, Robert Englund, yes, that Robert Englund, as Raymond, and Chris Lemon as Nick. So, we open in ancient Persia, where a Jinn tempts an emperor to make a wish. The emperor accepts, and the Jinn corrupts his wish, turning his court into a nightmarish hellscape. The Jinn offers the emperor a third and final wish, but the court sorcerer appears and tells the emperor to not ask for anything else, as that would allow the Jinn to open the portal between worlds and set his brethren loose upon the earth. The sorcerer then casts a spell, sealing the Jinn into a fire opal and putting a temporary pause on its reign of terror. And that's how it ends, right, Nico?
Well, for the time being, we then cut back to modern times, which in this case is the 90s, and we see a dock crew unloading a statue of an ancient god from a cargo ship. Unfortunately, though, the crane operator he's had a few drinks, and he fumbles with the equipment, crushing a man and shattering the statue. Afterwards, the shameless crane operator, drunk and curious about everything, examines the rubble and finds the same fire opal the Jinn was sealed into. And he has his friend pawn it, like you do.
I mean, I'm sure he got a ton of bread for that, right, Dan?
I think he said he only got like a couple $100 or something. So no, not really.
Which is some shit. The thing's fucking huge.
No, I think that's what he paid his friend. Yeah, he gave his friend a couple hundred because his friend was like, "Did he screw me?" And she was like, yeah, he did.
True.
So from there, we are introduced to Alex, an appraiser of an auction house, and Josh, a scientist. The pawn shop owner brings the fire opal to the auction house where Alex works, and she unwittingly wakes the Jinn from his slumber while examining the opal. Alex asks Josh to conduct a molecular analysis of the opal, but the Jinn emerges in the process, exploding the opal, brutally maiming Josh in the process. The Jinn asks Josh if he wants the pain to go away. Josh says yes, and the Jinn kills him, technically granting his wish.
Yes, indeed. And that's going to be a common trend because, as it turns out, the Jinn can only use his powers to grant the wishes of someone else. So he goes around in human form, granting wishes at the cost of a person's soul. So, people are like, "Oh, I want this." And he's like, "It'll cost your soul." And typically they don't believe him, but obviously he actually can take their souls. And again, he's doing this in some kind of corrupted manner. So someone might "Oh, I don't want to see something bad happen." And so he'll take away their eyes or something like that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so as it turns out, the Jinn actually has to collect these souls in order to fill the fire opal. Once the opal is full, he then must grant 3 wishes from the person who summons him, which in this case happens to be Alex. So what happens, Nico?
So the Jinn confronts Alex and just repeatedly asks her, "Hey, yo, make your wishes. Come on." Not like that. He's much more hostile and terrifying. But he manages to get her to make 2 wishes before she actually gets away from him. Alex then tries to find her sister so that they can get the hell out of Dodge. But her sister says that she's gone to a party hosted by this antique dealer, Raymond. Alex goes to the party, and the Jinn naturally follows her. Raymond tells the Jinn that he wants a party that people will talk about for centuries, which causes the Jinn to create another nightmarish scene, much like the introduction, where he puts the partygoers through various brutal ends.
Dan, how's this one wrap up?
The Jinn finally corners Alex and holds her sister hostage to try and force a 3rd wish out of her. Alex takes a second to think and then realizes what she has to do. She wishes that the crane operator hadn't been drunk that day that he smashed the statue. This caused a ripple effect that undoes all the madness that the Jinn has wrought, and we end with Alex happily asking Josh on a date, and we briefly see the crane operator safely landing the statue. The movie closes with a brief flash of the Jinn imprisoned in the fire opal, laughing evilly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, let's just go ahead and take it right now, shall we? How does this movie look, Nico, visually?
So it is a very striking piece of horror with the gore, I would say. In particular with the first little bit here in the first scene, they really go fucking wild with it. In the part where the Jinn just makes the party into a literal hellscape, there's motherfuckers with their skeletons like popping out of their flesh like a Venus flytrap and then attacking the previous sacks of flesh. Like, it's kind of fucking rad, I'm not gonna lie. When I was watching it, I was like, holy shit, this is intense as hell.
They don't waste any time. That's like minute 1 of the fucking movie, too.
Literally minute 1, yeah, it gets going quick.
It doesn't waste any time, I will say that. Now, another thing that I also want to add is the costume design of the Jinn. They had to really try to make something that I guess was scary, but at the same time, they opted to go for practical effects. So the Jinn has a cool little setup. You know, he's got like, I thought they looked like tubes that like
Yeah, kinda.
that go into him a little bit, but he's got like horns. He looks very devilish, but I liked his costume overall. I did like that. And to be fair to the movie, I felt like they really picked their place to use special effects. I thought that there would be large sections where there weren't really a ton of special effects, but whenever they decided to, they went all the way. Like by the end of the movie, I didn't feel cheaped out or robbed or stolen or anything. But Dan, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, is this technically the goriest movie we've ever seen? I
Nah,
think
bro,
it might
Silent
be.
Hill.
Maybe Deathgasm.
Maybe. Yeah. I don't know. The gore didn't look as realistic as some of the others would, but I feel like there's a shitload of it. And I mean, it looks pretty good though. It is like 90s kind of like almost campy sort of sometimes. So it doesn't look bad by any means, but it's definitely not like super realistic. So like even though like people are getting sliced open, guts ripped out, eaten, all this kind of shit, I wasn't like necessarily grossed out just because it wasn't like super hyper realistic. But I thought it looked pretty good, and it was I hope this doesn't put me on a list, but like it was fun to watch all this shit happen, you know?
Well, yo, I was gonna say I wasn't like scared, wasn't the word I would use, but I thought that shit looked cool. A lot of it looked
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Particularly the scene that Nico talked about earlier. This man's skeleton literally left his fucking body. And I was like, yo, like that was intense. I never thought of something like that before. So that was definitely intense. But Dan, you know, I'm not done talking to you yet because I want to get an idea about the score. How'd you feel about the sounds of this movie?
The score I thought was good. To be honest, I didn't really pay a whole lot of attention to it. I think it fit the movie pretty well. The sound effects were good. I mean, they all that gore and violence and everything I thought fit what was happening. The sounds of that fit the visual aspect, I thought. Except there was one part that kind of got me, like near the end when the Jinn makes these like statues come alive, these ancient statues, and one of them has a fucking bow, and these like security guards are like trying to shoot them, and the statue with the bow like shoots one of the security guards, and when it shoots it with the bow, there's a little like pop kind of sound. And I was just like, no, like shoots him with the arrow. I was like, pop. I was like, why? Why did you do that? So that was like the one that I thought was like really lame. But aside from that, I thought the audio effects were good.
Agreed. I liked him as well. I thought the Jinn's voice was cool. You know, the human voice was definitely very kind of charismatic. Oh, you can trust me. And then the voice when he was the Jinn, he honestly kind of sounded a little bit like an evil Triple H for any wrestling fans out there. But,
Holy shit,
yeah.
he did.
but like, he literally, he's like, it's okay, yeah. Soon now.
Wait, wasn't Triple H in a horror movie?
He was in Blade 3.
swear to God.
He was in Blade Trinity.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, the Jinn's over here like, so behold, soon I will unleash upon this earth. Like, that's kind of how he was talking a little bit. Like, he always had
You
an
sound
emphasis.
like a hungover pastor.
So I don't know, but he was ready, yo. He was ready. And I did appreciate there was like one or two little, 90s like pop punk tracks thrown in there at the start and the end. Classic stuff. Nico, thoughts though?
Yeah, I don't really have too much to add on the soundtrack that you guys haven't already covered. The thing that I think is the most notable part of the sound is just that the human version of the Jinn really does sound particularly menacing, and I like that human him sounds menacing as well as the Jinn part. Instead of it being like, oh, I'm the human, I am the Jinn.
Yeah, pretty
But
much.
I'm a
That's pretty
human.
good. That's pretty good, actually. He does sound like that.
I also echo that, and Justin also mentioned the human voice too. But like I thought his human voice did a really good job of being menacing and slightly altered. Maybe I feel like it was maybe a little deeper than it should have, or like a normal voice, but not so
He's using
much.
a lot of vocal fry for sure.
Right, but it wasn't so different that like, oh, this is clearly like an evil person or something. You know what I mean? Like it fit that line. It towed the line really well, I thought.
Hmm. So I think one of my favorite places to begin is the end. So, Nico, I want to talk to you about the end of this movie. So we kind of come to a conclusion here where Alex decides, you know what? I'm just going to hit Control Z on this whole thing, and we're going to just undo everything by making that one guy not drunk. He never drops the statue, so the Jinn never gets released. So Alex ends up then going back in time.
Somehow.
I had some questions about that because she didn't ask.
Yeah.
She didn't ask to go back in time. She just asked to undo everything, that basically undoing the Jinn being released, which in that
Yeah.
situation would put her like still 2 days later. I mean, the Jinn might not have got released, but you wouldn't
Yeah,
have
I
gone
feel
back
like
in
we
time.
skipped a scene or two there.
Yeah.
But I wanted to get your take. Is that a creative way to end the movie?
It's creative. I feel like they could have done something a bit more bombastic and outlandish, what with how the rest of the movie's gone. I mean, this is the third time we will have mentioned it. We literally have this skeleton popping out of this dude's body, and the most flashy way to end it is, this guy's not gonna drink this time. Yeah! Like, we couldn't do better than that, y'all.
Oh no, Dan, chime in here. Are you in approval?
I almost feel the opposite, actually.
Oh.
I think that when I was watching the movie, especially as the movie was kind of building to the climax, I was like, how the fuck are they going to win? Like, how are the good guys going to win? I don't understand. And when she did that, I was like, okay, I don't know. Like, I agree with the weird time travel part. And whenever there's any time travel or anything like that, I always go down this like rabbit hole of how time travel works or whatever, but thinking way
The
too
thought
much
process
into it.
behind
Right.
it and everything
Yeah.
else.
But I'm like, okay, I guess that's about the only way I could think of to defeat him, because he's just so extremely powerful that like, what else are you gonna do? Like, I don't know. That's my thoughts.
Yeah, and I mean, like, to kind of follow up on that, not to reference Aladdin, but to reference Aladdin, the genie in Aladdin literally says, like, I have cosmic level powers, I just can't do anything.
Itty bitty living space.
Yep. And in a weird way, the Jinn embodies the same principles. There's a scene where there's a security guard, and he's like, what do you want? And the security guard's like, I want you to leave. And he literally is like forced.
He's like, ah, damn.
Yeah, he's like forced to leave. He cannot not leave. He's like, no, damn it, I got to get in. And the security guard messes up by talking too much. But it's interesting that he is bound to so many rules already. I want to also kind of ask really quickly, do you think there's anything at all, Nico, to kind of the concept here of, because the Jinn can like clearly, he's like slept for like centuries or whatever. He's like eternal. He says he like can't die. He's like an immortal being or whatever. How big of a setback is it to be put back in the opal?
I'm not sure, because he seemed to be chilling at the end. Like, he was just almost mocking the viewers, like, fuck y'all, I know we're getting a sequel.
Dan?
Yeah, it probably wasn't too much of a thing. I mean, he'll probably have to wait another century or two. I know there's sequels, but I haven't seen them, so I don't know. But I mean, he's probably just sitting there thinking, all right, I'm back here for now, but I'll be back.
Yeah. Those other Jinn must be pissed off, though. They were like so close to
probably.
coming through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're like, yo, bro, you fucked up for the last time, bro. Like, we need
They've just
someone else to
been-
take the position.
They've just been edging for like 3 centuries.
Oh my God. Oh my
More like
God.
millennia at this
Millennia.
point.
It's been-
yeah, true.
it's been a
oh yeah,
minute.
way
It's
more
been a
than
minute.
centuries. Yeah.
Yeah. But I want to ask both of you here, first person to answer, please go ahead. So, Wishmaster, obviously, as we've acknowledged, has a couple different sequels. And the first two, at least, are cult classics. So, what makes this movie a cult classic? Why are we still talking about this movie today? Why does this movie have so many fans?
Part of it, I think, is the sort of fantasy aspect of it, because it's a little bit more fantastical than a lot of horror movies are. And I think that kind of helps lend itself to that. I got some pretty major, like Hellraiser vibes, almost Labyrinth with a David Bowie sort of vibes, kind of like that. I think some of the over the top gore, I think, also helps lend itself to being like a cult classic. Yeah, just the premise and the gore.
It's like a new metal version of Labyrinth.
Interesting.
Like, you have the main guy, whereas it's the Goblin King in Labyrinth, and now it's fuckface Jinn McGee in this. And his whole, like, vibe is being sinister and cunning, but he kind of ruins it a few times, where there's points in the movie where he's just, like, drops all sort of sense of grandeur. He's just like, yeah, well, fuck you.
Yo, there's a part in the movie where the Jinn pops up and the dude's like, holy shit. He's like, yeah, shit's hit the fan, hasn't it? And I was like, yo.
Did you just drink a fucking surge while you were practicing your lines?
Well, it's interesting because I almost feel like, so Wes Craven executive produces on this one. And we've also got Robert Englund, who for probably the first time in a long time is not really a villain. He's just a dude in the movie.
Yeah.
And I wonder if like there wasn't the tiniest bit of Freddy taken from that, because there's those very small moments where that happens.
When the Jinn first comes back to life or comes out of the opal, before he like fully becomes his body or whatever, for like a couple minutes he's in this like in between state. He's not fully formed yet or whatever, and the facial features very much reminded me of Freddy. Like you had that like really hooked nose, kind of like thin chin kind of area, and just like the silhouette of his face looked like it could have been Freddy. And I was almost expecting them to make it more Freddy-like. And then, of course, when he became the fully into himself and Jinndom, it was not at all Freddy. But yeah.
All right. And I guess kind of as an aside here, Nico, I know you wanted to talk about this. Movies like this aren't really made anymore, are they? Or at least not to the extent that they were back in the 90s. But can you elaborate on that a little bit? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so this movie has a definite vibe. I will say that much right now. And there just aren't movies with this kind of vibe in theaters anymore. I feel like recently there's been a turn away from... See, I don't know if I can even say away from camp, because we have stuff like, The Babysitter and other such, like Fear Street and stuff like that. But it's weird. I don't know.
I think maybe almost like B-movie-ish.
Yeah, it's kind of B-movie-ish, but it also, I feel like it takes itself a little bit more seriously at times. It's weird. This is a definite case of a oddity for sure that I think only could have really come out of the 90s.
Well, first off, consider this, right? So we've got Wes Craven as an executive producer.
Yeah.
I'm 99% sure that this was backed by like a studio, like an actual big budget studio. But even if it wasn't, I think like back in the 90s, there were a lot more of these movies that were more so in between. Like they weren't like shit. They weren't like, like super low quality. They weren't the best. They occupied kind of like a happy medium where people often had to use a lot of creativity to get around stuff. And, those types of movies still do exist today, but I just think they're like a lot rarer personally, because the gulf is so wide now between what a big budget studio can accomplish and what, like you and your friends can or whatever
This
else
feels
like
more
that.
like a class project than something submitted to Sundance, if you get my meaning.
Well, I was going to say, I feel like, yes, to your point, Justin, I think the gulf has widened. But at the same time, I think that technology has advanced so much that on the same kind of budget that a small studio might have, you can make an amazing quality movie. I mean, you can go out and buy a camera for
That's true.
$2,000 that gets you like phenomenal quality. And you can get a great audio setup for, I mean, you can buy a whole bunch of awesome shit for 10 grand, which seems like a lot, but in the grand scheme of things is like nothing. It's a drop in the bucket, you know? So I think that technology has advanced so much that we don't really get a lot of these kind of campy stuff as much anymore, just because the technology is just better than that now.
Potentially. I also think part of it is this movie leans really heavy into the practical effects.
True.
There are special effects in the movie, but the practical effects really take center stage. And again, I say this very generally because there are a lot of movies that still really, try their hardest to put in practical effects. But I will always say that something's better when it's like actually there. Because that, I think, if they had gone with CGI and made this movie like totally CGI,
fucking
I
awful.
feel like it would have been trash. So, real quick though, I want to talk about the Jinn. So, there's a funny line in the movie, and there's a professor of like folklore or something like that. And she and Alex are having a conversation about the Jinn, and Alex is trying to reference, like Disney movies a little bit, like Aladdin, and also just generally like, oh, I thought genies were XYZ. And then she's like, no, listen, don't follow what the Western world has done to the story of the Jinn. This is the true story. And meanwhile, I'm sitting here like pointing like Spider-Man because I'm like, oh, what the Western world has done to the story of the Jinn. You don't fucking say. Basically, in like the Islamic mythology where like a lot of these things come from, which, and granted, there are also myths that predate Islam in general.
Yeah, this is from Zoroastrianism with Ahura Mazda. Asura?
Yeah, but
Ahura? I can't remember.
I'm not
Acura,
expert in that.
Toyota, whatever.
But like, there's, to any Zoroasters out there, we apologize. But that's what they're called. Zoroasters are the followers of Zoroastrianism.
It's just a whimsical name.
All right, then. So, but no, a lot of what the modern world considers to be mythology from Jinn or about Jinn does come from the, you know what I mean, Islam. But basically, they're beings. Angels are from like light, humans are from earth, dirt kind of thing, and Jinn are from smokeless fire. And they're beings who, generally speaking, don't like, there's evil, there's good, similar to humans. And it's just like the whole granting wishes thing, I think it comes from the fact that people used to like enlist them to like do things for them and get things from them. But oftentimes, like people might not be powerful enough to control them. So that's when the Jinn would like, fuck them up.
So would they be like, they wouldn't go up to some random motherfucker and be like, do you want some wishes?
Probably not. And the way that, so I spoke to some spiritual leaders about, Jinn in general. And the kind of vibe is, how like, they explain it to me like this. They tend to mess with people who are already predisposed in some way to be like aligned with the spiritual thing. Dan actually did some research at the start of the pod and saw some other shit. And that's definitely true what he talked about. He was like, like depression, stuff like that can also make you more vulnerable. But the biggest thing,
Real sad boy hours here at GOTD.
Another big thing that attracts them is actually like people who dabble in like, like black magic, witchcraft, that kind of stuff. It kind of paints like a big sign above your head, like, hey, I'm there. I'm there to be fucked with almost. Like, so like normal people, average people they don't really fuck with, but there are vulnerable people out there who, they have been known to like mess with. So that's kind of like the mythology and the backstory. And a lot of it's like super fucking interesting actually, because in the other two major monotheistic faiths, the concept of the Jinn is not really there, not anywhere close to the same level. And the Jinn are almost kind of like this third party or player in the Islamic mythology and everything else like that. So, I mean, for example, like the devil kind of sort of falls into that subcategory. He wasn't an angel.
Interesting.
In Islamic mythology. So that's what it is there. But in this movie, we've got the guy and he basically only can use his powers when granting wishes. Nothing else. He's invulnerable and he is immortal, so you can't beat him, you can't kill him. How did you feel, Dan, about the way that he would interpret these wishes, maybe how he would use his powers. How'd you feel about that?
So I'm of two minds. One, I liked it because I think that if you literally had to say, I wish X, Y, or Z, then his powers would just be stunted. Like, good luck trying to get somebody to word something that way, you know? I like that. I guess it's almost like a slant rhyme, right? It kind of rhymes, but it kind of doesn't. You kind of wish for something, but you kind of don't. And he takes that and is able to interpret that as a wish, you know, and he goads it out of you. You know, do you want your suffering to end? Or like, I think there's this, like, the bouncer at the party is like, he, you know, the Jinn is like, do you really want to be doing this for the rest of your life? No. Okay. Well, do you want this to end? Yes. Okay. Well, you know, that's your wish. Okay. I'm granting your wish. So I like that he can kind of twist it, but sometimes I think that it's done a little too much. And sometimes it's like, all right, that's a bit of a stretch. I don't know about that one. But I like the idea, not necessarily the execution.
So, real quick, I want to turn to our resident cunning linguist here, Nico. So, Nico, how do you feel kind of about just talking now in terms of analyzing like grammar and such? When it comes to how the Jinn is really reading into these wishes, like he's a troll. He's trying to troll hard.
Oh, yeah.
And like, so for example, I keep wanting to call her Kirsty. Yeah, so much this is reminding me of fucking Hellraiser. But
Nice.
when Alex is, you know, she's like, I want to know who you are. First off, what a fucking stupid wish.
That was such a fucking
Holy
waste.
shit. That was a dumb fucking wish. You spent all this time reading
already
about
know.
the Jinn.
Like,
And then
you
you
didn't
and then you
need
show
that.
up. Do you not remember? Like, what the fuck? You spent like a whole day studying this shit. I
There
want
was a
even the
scene
playing field.
dedicated to it.
She must have just forgot, bro. That's the only thing I can think about. But how do you feel about just linguistically how he corrupts these wishes? Do you think it's all on par? Do you think it is all fair what he does? So, for example, there's a scene where he's at a party and the guy at the door is like, you know, kind of what Dan was talking about. And he's like, do you want to escape? And then he's like, yeah, I want to. Yeah, sure.
It was so
And then-
fucking dumb.
And then he traps him in like a, I forget what those are called, like a body binding suit. Straight jacket. It's a straight jacket. I don't know why I said body binding suit. It's a straight jacket.
It is a body binding suit.
And like a straight jacket underwater, like Harry Houdini. And he was like, Houdini got out in 2.5 minutes. And I'm like, does that really fall under escape?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
linguistically,
no,
he said,
the
not
fuck?
escape.
No, absolutely not.
because he said, do you want to escape?
Yeah, so that means obviously I want to put myself in, you know, one of the most perilous situations possible. Thanks for extrapolating that fuckface. This is like, this man is a handyman if every tool he used was a gun.
Wow.
Like, he's coming in here, hey, my sink's broken, I'm, you know, it's leaking, can I fix it? And he's like, oh, sure, blah, blah, blah. And now you just have a fucking hole in your bathroom. The sink's
Well,
not
no.
gonna be a problem anymore for you.
I was about to say, he would literally say like, so do you not want this problem anymore? Yeah, I don't want this problem anymore.
And then he like
Fucking,
beats
like-
you with the sink or some shit.
I know. Now you don't have that problem anymore because you're dead. Like, that's just how he does it. I mean, Dan, how did you feel about the one where she's like, I want to get to know you, and he teleports her inside of the, inside of the opal to like another kind of hellish scene. I mean, cool scene, I guess, but was that a fulfillment of her wish?
I don't think it was. Like, what did she learn? Like, what the fuck did she learn there? She was just trapped and then she ran away. That's it. I don't think she learned anything.
Actually, hold on, wait, she learned nothing.
Yeah.
Like,
What the fuck?
that was weird. That was definitely weird. And then there was the one chick at the supermarket not supermarket, fuck me. She was at like a clothing store, and he was like, do you want to be beautiful forever? And she's like, yeah. And so like he turns her into a mannequin, and I'm just like,
I really wish she
Dog.
would have said like, you always were, honey.
I actually kind of like that one. I thought that was a good way to do it. Do you want to be beautiful forever? Yes. Basically turning her into a statue kind of thing, a mannequin. I personally thought that one was a good twist of the words and did it well. A lot of the others I thought were stretches, especially the Houdini one. But
Well, I want to go ahead now and just kind of like talk through some of our favorite scenes. And what's your favorite kill, Dan? You got to call one. You like, so is the statue one your favorite or no?
No, I think my favorite kill is near the end at the last party. They have a piano, and the piano just starts going crazy.
Oh my God.
Like the strings of the piano get ripped out and like wrap themselves around somebody, and it like pulls the guy's head off. Somebody else gets dragged into a different part of the piano. Like I think he hits like the foot pedals or something, and then goes into the body. I can't remember, but that was probably my favorite kill.
All right. Nico, how about you?
I keep bringing it up throughout the podcast. So you already know it's my favorite scene is when we have the scary, spooky skeletons, Kool-Aid manning his way out of the dude's body. It's just, it's fantastic. It's wonderful.
I had to think about this because there's like actually some pretty decent kills in this one.
There are, yeah.
But, and Dan, to your point, I don't know if like the utmost goriest, but definitely the highest body count.
Probably, yeah.
I think this is the highest body count.
Yeah.
But at the party, there's this chick, and someone says something, or she says something like, "Oh, like I wish you could see right through me," and then he like fucking instantly turns it into like a glass statue.
That was the dumbest shit.
And then fucking explodes her, and she does like mass damage to like everyone. And I was like, like people got like their faces ripped off, and I was like, oh shit.
And to your earlier point about like practical effects, there's another side to that because that shit looked really bad.
They tried some 3D-ish kind of shit with some of these effects. That was one of them. Another one was the security guard where he's like, "You'll have to walk through me." And
so he turns him into a fucking glass pane and breaks him. Like
that was a bad one too. I forgot about that. That was a bad one.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, I want to talk about, some of our least favorite kills now, or like least favorite scenes. So that one, I think for the pod definitely qualifies. There's a scene where the Jinn's trying to get into Alex's place where she works. Security guard's like, no. And the Jinn tricks him into saying, like, "You'll have to walk through me or have to get through me." So then the Jinn like transposes his body onto a pane of glass and then like walks through the glass. Very realistic. Yeah, okay, 10 out of 10, dude. But I want to know least favorite scenes aside from that.
Least favorite for me has to be the Houdini one. That was one such a stretch of do you want to escape thing. But two, it was also just like fucking out of nowhere. Like, where the fuck did this like aquarium come from? This water tank that he is now in. Like, what does this have to do with anything else at all? That was fucking weird.
All right. Nico, your least favorite one now.
I think my least favorite one is the part where they're outside the supermarket and the Jinn talks to the homeless guy, and he basically is like, "Do you want the supervisor in there to get cancer?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure. Fuck it, why not?" And then dude just like starts foaming at the mouth and seizing. Like, that's not what cancer is.
I think he like got it like immediate, like the worst possible.
You got like turbo foamy cancer.
He got like insta-killed, bro. That's all I could say. But I will say my least favorite scene is probably one of them it's nothing to do with the Jinn.
Interesting.
So there's a romance going on between Alex and this dude, Josh. So Josh is like
phoned in.
Josh is like her forever brother. And she's like, "I wouldn't want to date you. You're like my best friend and I rely on you," and whatever else. And he's like, he's like kind of bummed out about it. He occasionally asks about it, but whatever. Like, he still does shit for her. It's not like contingent on her going out with him. And like, she really regrets it after he gets like exploded. And so at the end of the movie, you're thinking, all right, like, okay, I get what they're going for here. They're going to like wrap it up all nice. And so she's like, "What are we doing for dinner tonight?" And then he's like, "Oh, what are we doing for dinner tonight?"
His fucking face there was like the dude in Troll 2 when he was like, "They're eating her. They're gonna eat me."
And then he was like, "I don't know, maybe I was thinking more of like," because she's like, "How about dinner and a movie?" Which is what he suggested earlier on. And then he jokingly suggests like, "How about hot dogs and baseball?" And first off, hot dogs and baseball would mean something completely different. IMO, but
My
they're
God.
I'm just saying. So you never know. But she's like, he's joking when he says it. And then she's like, yeah. And she gets like real wistful. She's like, yeah. And I'm like, wait, whoa, what's going on here? And then she laughs and then she winks and walks away. And I'm like, yo, she's looking kind of psycho here at the end, bro. Like, I don't know about this.
They have like
so-
no chemistry at all.
There was zero. Like, to me, it seemed like he just like dunked on her when they played tennis and that was it. Like, that was the
Pretty
extent.
much.
That was the extent of the relationship. But also, like, super quick, I did also want to mention, so the Jinn can only use his powers when somebody has wished. That is true, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So how in the flying fuck did the Jinn get her sister into a portrait?
That's a good ass question, Justin.
Maybe she wished for it off camera.
Bro, no, he was chasing fucking Alex.
What would you wish for?
At what point would she say, I want to be as pretty as a picture? Okay.
I want to have something to remember this night by.
All these people getting sliced open and shit. I want to be pretty. Okay.
I can't imagine that. I don't know. There was like one or two things I was like, how did you get this to happen, dude? Like, how did this work out? Also, the Jinn can like delay taking your soul. He doesn't always take people's souls immediately. Like there was this one cop who he like waited and then he took his soul.
Well, like all the
afterwards.
people he killed in the first half, he waited.
That's true.
Mm.
But now it's time for the what would you do? So I'm gonna say this. As somebody who's from Trinidad, I don't fuck with no gemstones that I didn't buy. I don't fuck with no gemstones previously owned. I don't fuck with none of that shit. So I'm never gonna get this gemstone. I'm not even gonna look at it. Where'd you get this gemstone from? Oh, well, pre-Islamic God? Nah, none of that shit, bro. So that's first off bat. But I'm gonna say that so the Jinn is over here, and we know that he's like the Jinn, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if he's like, do you have anything you wish for, Danielle? Like, let's say he's trying to get you to do the 3 wishes. What would you do? How would you get out of it?
I think if I knew the full extent of everything like that,
Yeah.
I don't know that I could fully go through with it. But like I said before, I have no idea how I would beat him. I would probably try to kill myself because
That is actually a way.
because he has to get the 3 wishes from me. But if I'm dead, then maybe that would stop him. I don't know.
You can't kill me if I kill me first.
No. But I mean, that's very true. That's definitely a truth. No untruth spoken there. See, from my perspective, I would actually ask him, I would take 1 wish. I would say, I want you to honestly tell me a way that I could kill you that is feasible for me to do. I feel like he would have no choice but to answer the question because he has to. Then the second thing I would do is like, I wish I never touched the stone.
Mm.
That would
Yeah.
also be another one.
See, y'all are doing too much. Like, if he was
would you do?
coming up to me and be like, you must make 3 wishes, I would just fucking mean mug him and not say anything. What the fuck is he gonna do?
Classic
But what if he starts like torturing people?
New York.
I mean,
What if-
yeah.
What if he starts torturing your friends, torturing your family, tortures Dan?
Aw.
Dan's like,
I
what are you gonna do,
mean,
Nico?
at that point, I gotta shout out to the legend, call up Ed and Lorraine Warren.
Facts.
Wow.
Facts. Good call.
Like,
That's true.
they are
Hey,
the
listen.
2 people who would be able to
I
deal
wish
with it.
Ed and Lorraine Warren were here.
No! You told me the sorcerers were all gone. They're right here. Oh, that's another thing I would wish for. Like, I wish
Good
for a
point.
sorcerer to defeat you. Also, bro, can I just say one thing really, 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 really quick? The sorcerer, like, the Jinn is powerless to stop the sorcerer from capturing him.
Yeah.
Like, the sorcerer comes out at the start, he's like, go away, go away, go away. And, like, he has no choice but to, like, go into the little crystal or whatever. And so, I don't know. I feel like this movie, and in the next one, I feel like they did a better job of it. But in this one, I feel like he's a little, almost kind of like either omnipotent or completely hamstrung. And there's no kind of like in between. Because, I mean, it has to be that way, I guess. Because if he was just omnipotent the whole time, there wouldn't be a point. So I get it. But that's just my thoughts. So real quick, do we have any criticisms of the movie that we haven't already discussed? Anything you want to kind of get off your chest here?
Not particularly. I think
I can't think of anything.
that any criticism I would have, it's a campy enough movie that the criticisms aren't actually like bad. It lends itself to the campiness and the charm, I guess, of the movie to
Okay.
me.
All right. Nico, same for you. You good?
Yeah.
Yeah, I am as well. So, you know what's not good, though? This movie's Rotten Tomato score.
Color me shocked.
So, this movie has a 25% from the critics and a 38% from the audience.
Wow.
Fucking A.
I think these fools are a little bit harsh. DOTD will put them in their place. Dan, what would you give this movie?
I will give this a 70. Yeah, I think 70. I enjoyed watching it.
You fucking hoe.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I enjoyed watching it. I had a good time. Like we've talked about, there's plenty of dumb scenes. There's plenty of plot holes and stuff that, like I kind of said, I think lends itself to the campiness of the movie and an overall good vibe. Is it a wonderful movie? No. But I think it's enjoyable. It was a good, fun time. So 70.
I'm actually right there with you. I put it at a 70. I echo so much of what you say. I think it is one of those movies where there have been movies in the past where Night of the Demons comes to mind, for example, the 2009 remake, where we say like, oh, like if you want like a fun movie, there's better out there. I sincerely think this is one of the better out there movies. This is one of those where like if you're with your friends or even by yourself and you just want to watch like a horror movie that isn't really hell-bent on scaring you, it's just like fun. It is a very fun horror movie.
It is.
It's definitely something that, you know, I liked a lot. Again, one or two cheesy scenes, one or two things that doesn't necessarily hold up. This is by no means a masterpiece, but I liked it. I honestly really liked it. So it's going to get a 70 from me. But Nico, I want your thoughts.
So I just want to say this mostly for y'all two's sake. I've come a long way. Like, however many years ago, this would have gotten like a 2. This would have been super fucking low. And I was going to give it a 50 just because it's kind of middle of the road for me. Like, it's fun, but it's also not that great. But I'm going to give it a 60 just for the fun factor and the gore.
I will say the gore is one thing that bumped it up for me a lot. Dude, there was a scene where this dude had a fucking like chest burster come out his guts and grab a woman's arm. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Like a head came out and bit someone. And the director, he like had like his organs come out through his mouth and like it was like a vacuum bag, like a bagpipe accordion bag or something. I don't know, bro. That was ill. That was ill. Like they were on some other shit with that. So I liked it. Now, recommendation. Does this get a recommendation from you?
I think so. I think if you're in a camping movie mood, I would say so, yes.
I would recommend this one as well. I think it's a fun time. It's one of those where, you know, if you're looking to chill out, or even if you're looking for like, this isn't something that's gonna like traumatize someone. That's not gonna scare the shit out of someone, which sometimes is what you want. You know, like you don't necessarily want the most hardcore thing every time. So I liked it.
I can't believe I'm about to fucking recommend this, but yeah, what the hell?
Welcome to the dark side.
Fucking tainted me forever, Justin.
Do you want to watch this movie?
Do you wish to watch this movie?
Not really, but I had a good time.
Yeah, so there you go. Like, so it's a recommendation. It's a recommendation from Don't Open That Door. Fucking incredible. I know. I'm not even going to ask.
I was not expecting to recommend this. I'm going to be real with you.
I know it's not going to get the golden seal. Nico, I'm not going to give it the golden seal.
No.
Nico definitely isn't.
No.
Dan, you're not as
No.
well. So no golden seal, but it does get a recommend. It does get a recommend. So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Yeah?
I'm trying to check and see if this was like a major, because this says it was produced by Live Entertainment, Artisan Entertainment, I guess. Oh, but this was acquired by Lionsgate eventually. It went defunct in 2004.
Okay.
Because I was going to ask, is this Diamond in the Rough worthy, or are we concerning that for more indie flicks?
I think it's got to be more indie than...
Yeah.
It has
Okay.
fucking Robert Englund, dude.
And Wes Craven.
To be fair, some of these big names act in smaller flicks. But yeah, I agree with that. So we'll stick with the recommend for right now. We'll stick with the recommend. Okay. So any last words before we wrap this one up, gentlemen?
Wishmaster by Night, which is a dope album. Go check it out.
Dope song as well.
Yeah.
Heartborn will find a way.
In me, the Wishmaster.
Yeah, exactly, bro.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. So yeah, If you liked what you've heard, if you disagree with anything you've heard, or if you just want to fill us in on something, go ahead and drop us a line. We're on Twitter and Instagram at DOTD Horror. We're also on Facebook. Don't open that door. Also, please check out our website, dotdhorror.com. But till then, that's been it from Dan, Nico, and Jus. Careful what you wish for. And as always, dear listener, don't open that door. Bye.